Okay, here we go. It's another podcast with my good friend and the Labour MP, Perran
Hang on,
Moon.
stuck. You're pressing
What?
your microphone.
Oh, I must look. Sorry, about the microphone. Who's given some time out in his busy schedule to come and talk to us in St Agnes. Is our MP. I've got the question for him later on. First, I'd really like to talk, if I can, about your personal history.
That's
Because,
fine.
yeah, and I don't. I mean, what I mean is, your father was a GP. I think your brother is a rugby coach, Cornwall, London, Cornwall.
That's right.
And your mum was a nurse.
She was.
So you grew up in quite a busy sort of family.
I did. I've actually got 5 brothers and 1 sister who I was out at watching the White Horse at the theatre in Redruth yesterday evening. But yeah, it was. I was born in Redruth, born at Redruth Hospital, went to Twergy School. Mum and Dad got divorced quite shortly after, so I was about 3 or 4. I lived in just outside Helston Sithney, then Penzance. Ended up going to St Durbin's School in Penzance. Dad was a GP at Poole for 40 years. Mum was a nurse at Trelisk for many years. And yeah, it's quite a big family. So I'm the youngest of 5, and then there are 2 half brothers on either side. Yeah. So my oldest brother is a KC. Next brother down is works in chartered surveying. Then there's the brother you're talking about, Dickon, who is the longest serving RFU coach in the country, with London Cornish. And then there's me, but after the first 2, underneath the oldest brother, there's my sister Tamsin, who lives in France. And I got 2 half brothers, William, who lives in Stockholm, and Tom, who lives in Adelaide.
So what sitting were you on for the meals then?
Well, we had to eat quickly. And my brother Ben, who's the 3rd one, would eat very slowly. And if you watch him eat now, he eats like they do in prison with his arm round his plate, because we'd eat really quickly and nick his food. Wasn't
So he's learned to cover it. That's great. And you're a very proud Cornishman. I know that. The one thing I did that impressed me a lot was that because Cornwall is very different. It's peninsular. When I moved from Nottingham to Lincoln, nobody called me a blow-in, or a Emmett or whatever. And I know that doesn't sit well with you. I talked to Mike Bunt about it, and he's saying that that we're all here and we're all doing what we can to make Cornwall better, or I hope we are.
Yeah.
And that sometimes I had a guy when I first stand in, and he came up to me in the high street, and he said, "Well, which Mitchell are you then? Are you a Redruth Mitchell or a St Agnes Mitchell?" And I said, "Nottingham branch, mate." And he said, "No, we're not so sure about you people coming down here." I says, "Look, mate," I says, "we don't know each other." I says, "You're very proud to be Cornish." And I says, "I would be. I think it's a great thing to be Cornish." I said, "My dad was a Cockney from London. He was flying Spitfires and Hurricanes at the age of 20, and he was moved up to Scampton in Lincolnshire, where he met my mum, who was Nottingham lass. And at 22, he was flying a bomber with a full crew. Pretty proud of my family as well." And he went, "Oh, yeah." We became good friends after that. And I think he's just recognising that we're all proud of where we come from. And yeah, sorry, go on, you go.
Yeah, no. I mean, I have a view on this, Pete, and it's not universally accepted by some, but I think you can be Cornish by birth, as I am. You can be Cornish by marriage, by marrying obviously a Cornish man or woman. But you can also, and this is the really important bit for me, you can be Cornish by choice, Cornish on purpose, as I like to call it. And that is for people who have come to Cornwall, who live in Cornwall, and who appreciate and are curious about what it is to be Cornish and to understand our culture, our language, our heritage, and engage with the community. Throughout history, we have always been a place of safe harbour for centuries, for people from abroad and for people passing through, which is why we have pasty festivals in Mexico.
Yeah.
We have, and there's a Redruth in South Australia and a Camborne in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Because we exported our mining expertise, and we've often looked outwards, in terms of in terms of the Marconi and the cable to Canada. The first ever transatlantic message was passed, and Goonhilly with the moon landing being transmitted here. We've always been outward looking. We've always had people passing through, and that's why I think it's really important we don't, we don't become very insular about what it is to be Cornish. I was really upset by someone. It wasn't his fault, but he messaged me on Facebook and said, "I've lived since I was 4 years old in Cornwall, and that was 38 years ago, but obviously I'm not Cornish." Well, as far as I'm concerned, if that fella's engaging with the community, if he's part of the community, if he is looking after others, if he's creating the culture for that safe harbour, he's as Cornish as I am, and that's something I feel is really important. That it needs to be an inclusive society, not an exclusive one. Saying, well, because you're not born here, because you're not married to a Cornish man, or you can't possibly be Cornish. If you're here, you're contributing. You understand what it is to be Cornish. You're Cornish, as far as I'm concerned.
Lovely, that's well said. Thank you for that. And certainly, when I heard the old thing that if you shouted down a mine anywhere in the world, you'd hear a Cornish voice come back up. And I was going to get on to later, but perhaps talk about it now. But Canada's going through some problems at the moment, and I see that Cornwall's in a very particular position as a duchy, and in the position that it's had very close links with Canada for hundreds of years through fishing and mining, and American stuff's flying off the shelves going back to America up there. I think there's an opportunity there for Cornwall. Cornish beers,
you mentioned this.
Yeah, and I think we can. I've tried to put a thing through the council. I won't be able to do it because of Perran, I don't think, but we might get it off the leader. And that's just to remind the Canadian people that we're with them, and the Commonwealth, that we're there, and we'll support them. I think it's important,
I think this is a moment in history. This really is a moment in history. We will look back at this moment and judge ourselves on how we performed and how we reached out to support people with whom we share values. We don't share values with Vladimir Putin and what's happening in the east of Europe. We've always shared values with the Canadians. And I think it's I think I have to say, and I would say this, wouldn't I? But the way that Keir Starmer has read out and taken a lead on this issue, following those really uncomfortable scenes in the White House between the two presidents. They are two presidents, one of Ukraine and one of the United States. That didn't feel like a comradely, supportive, helpful relationship. That felt like something else. And at these moments, these are the points where we, as British people, and I am a proud Brit, we need to be reaching out, building up the alliances, calming the situation down, remembering who the enemy is and who our historic friends are, and working to build up those alliances.
I think Starmer's been fantastic, I've got to say. He has galvanized, I wouldn't say Churchillian, but he's been that sort of character. It was a bloody shame we weren't there at the EU conference. I know you feel as strongly about Brexit as I do. Perhaps not, but I certainly think we should be leading Europe in all the ways, and we've got the person there to do it. I think in Keir Starmer. I think he's been very, very good.
Well, Keir's been very explicit about having a much closer relationship with the European Union, walking into a room not as a sneering, resentful partner, but as allies and friends, and as partners, and that's transformational. I'm on the Parliamentary Committee for the Council of Europe, which a lot of people get confused with the EU. The Council of Europe is nothing to do with the EU. It's a much broader membership. But I've been really encouraged to make sure that we're engaging openly and transparently and hopefully with a lot of nations that we engage with in Strasbourg, where the Council of Europe is based. And it's from their perspective, we've had nothing but goodwill. Compared with the last 10, 14 years, people on mainland Europe are longing for a relationship with a more constructive relationship with the UK. And that's what we're able to offer now.
And with Cornwall. I mean, I know we're talking to Bert Biscoe, who you probably know, He's a good friend of mine and a great counsellor. And he used to go across there and meet. We had an office there that cost us 30 grand a year or something. And he said that office has brought us millions because they like to see us over there and they like to talk to us and go out in the evening and have a chat. And he says, but it's particularly the Cornish, the Bretons and the Cornish are loved throughout the world. And he said, in Europe, they love it. He said, I can get most things I want. If I go over there and talk to them. And we did. I think Cornwall got more money than any other. He got certainly, it's not a county, but any other, got more than Wales, more than Scotland, more than Northern Ireland. And that, I think that just shows how Cornwall is respected in Europe.
I think, it's, I before I became an MP, I worked in business for 30 years. And, something like that is an investment. If you look at it in purely commercial terms, having an awareness of who the Cornish are and what we offer, and we've got so much to offer Cornwall now. With as we transition away from fossil fuels, are a huge opportunity with onshore wind, offshore wind, geothermal, tidal, solar, tin, lithium. All of these are areas that that our European partners are engaged with. They're really interested in what Cornwall has got to offer, and actually, you need to invest a bit in order to make sure you are maximising on these opportunities. So having a presence on mainland Europe where you're promoting Cornwall, we did it on St. Perran's Day in Westminster, and the place was packed full of MPs and peers. We need to take Cornwall out. Cornwall's an outward-looking society. We're an outward-looking people. We happen to have the natural resources to be absolutely fundamental to our transition away from fossil fuels, and we need to be screaming and shouting about it now. And so, that's why I'm hopeful that we're re-engaging with the EU, we're re-engaging with nations we haven't spoken to for a long time, and I've got a good warm feeling about that now. But from a Cornish perspective, we need to be banging the drum, not apologising for ourselves.
They're our friends. They're not people who sneered at what was going on years ago. You mentioned Westminster. You very kindly showed me around the Houses of Parliament recently with Tim from the Tub House. And I was quite stuck at how small the room is. That was
The tamer of that.
Yeah, I came away with it. But I didn't realise until I saw a post somewhere that you got your own Cornwall Assembly up there, or whatever you call it.
It's in inverted commas called the Cornish Assembly, and it's a large office that is shared.
You did work to get that, didn't you?
Well, it wasn't us that got it.
Oh, right.
So I share it with Jane Kirkham from Cllr and Falmouth and Noah Law from St Ossa and Newquay, and our staff. So there's about 7 or 8 of us in that office. It was actually the Conservatives before us who set this up, and there were 3 Conservative MPs in there. It's kind of on ground level of Speaker's House within the Westminster itself. But when we arrived, there was actually a very nice note from one of the outgoing staff members saying this was the Cornish Assembly, called the Cornish Assembly, because there were 3 Cornish MPs here, who were 3 of the outgoing Conservatives. And so I was able to feed back to some of the outgoing Conservatives that the Cornish Embassy lives on. It's not a party political thing. It is a large room in Westminster. We have the flag of St Perran proudly on the wall. We have lots of Cornish maps all over the place. It's known as the Cornish Assembly within Westminster, and long may it continue.
I bet there's people who give their eye teeth for that. So, I've watched various programmes, documentaries on Westminster, and people end up with boot cupboards.
They do. And if I'm perfectly honest with you, Westminster Palace itself needs a hell of a lot of work. I mean, it really does. Now, unfortunately, it would cost billions to do it, and we don't have billions. But, we quite often have mice running around that place. And, the carpet's quite threadbare. The chairs are, mainly kind of broken and that sort of thing. We're not making complaints because we just get on with it. In fact, we borrowed the Speaker's cat, who's called Atlee, and we put Atlee in the, it's called Atlee. Atlee the cat. It's less like a cat, more like a lion. It's actually a huge thing. Jane Kirkham picked it up, and it was about half the size of Jane. Right. But anyway, we left it in there just for a day, and that was about a month ago. We've had no mice since. I think it's largely because of the smell of the cat. But yeah, Atlee the cat.
You're a dog man, aren't you? We'll go into that a bit later.
Well, I like cats as well.
Yeah. Jane's was a proper counsellor. I had a lot of respect for Jane. Yeah. We just a little story. We had during COVID. We had one of the local legends dressed up as Santa, and they're building this great big rolly on, and they're building this great big sleigh with all the lights on it. And it was just so the kids they'd seen Santa, you know, because there was nothing in their lives really, just staying at home, you know, and they asked me if I'd use my slush fund to buy some little bag with a toy in it and a pencil, you know, and something from Santa. I got this from Santa. And I said, yeah, of course I would. And I said, how many kids are you thinking of? And she said, oh, about 380, I think. I said, right, get 500. They're £1 each. I'll give you 500, we get 500. Don't want one kid going home without one. It'd be a disaster. So we did. And then she rang me a few days later and she says, we've got 120 left. I said, right, okay, I'll have a word with the food banks. See if they want, because obviously if you go into a food bank, you probably haven't got a lot of money to spend your kids. Cllr, Red Ruth was fine because he was on telly, the guy.
Yeah.
And he got loads of money. So I rang Jane up. I said, what are your food banks like down there? Oh, I'll ring up. And she rang back within a few minutes. She said they'd love them. Stuff's going out tonight. They'd love to put one in each of the things. And where are they? I'm just getting into my car. Where are they? I said, they're at St Austell. And she was down in Falmouth. She drove all the way from Falmouth to St Austell, picked them up off a friend of mine who got in the back boot of her car, drove back and then sat up all night putting them in the boxes. Proper cancer.
Jane's a force of nature, and what Jane offers to certainly the other 3 Labour MPs is the experience that she's got being at Cornwall Council. But it's more than that. She is somebody who is utterly focused on making the lot of people right across Cornwall as comfortable as they can be. And she works so hard. She doesn't sleep much because that's the way she is. But she works so hard to that end. I've got a huge amount of admiration.
Yeah, I'm really,
and I'm very proud she's on our side.
Yes, so I'm pleased. We're here. I was just telling them we're going to go inside in a minute and watch England versus Italy.
Yes, we are.
And but you played rugby.
I did.
Who do you play for?
I was my proudest moment as a rugby player actually was breaking free. I was a fullback and I dummied a few players and broke through, and I ran from about the halfway line under the posts at a Mene in Penzance, right? Yeah, as Penzance New Year's was. I looked up the skies and I kind of and I thought, fantastic, I've got this rugby crack. But that was at the age of 9.
Yeah.
So
that's your proudest moment. 9.
It kind of went
all downhill.
Went downhill from there. Yeah, I played minis for Penzance New Year's was Cornish Pirates now. I am from Redruth, so I'm a Reds fan, which causes complications given that we have many clubs across Camborne, Redruth and Hale, including Camborne, who I really, I'm in 2 minds about this season as to whether they go up. It would be wonderful for Camborne. They deserve it. They're the best side in the league. But that Camborne Redruth game has been so good, not just in terms of the banter, but financially for both clubs. It's really, really important. But basically, I played rugby all the way through until at university. I broke my back, and that was kind of the end of my career. But I loved playing. I did a few trials and training sessions after I broke my back with Clermont-Ferrand before they became Clermont Auvergne in France. That was a mistake, but that's a whole nother story. But I absolutely love my rugby. I've got a quite high-profile debate, Westminster Hall debate, on Tuesday morning about the governance of English rugby,
Right.
because I'm deeply concerned about the lack of funding, the lack of resource, the way that grassroots, primarily men's rugby, English women's rugby is pretty good and it's really positive, but English men's grassroots rugby is really struggling across the country. And it's not a party political thing. I've spoken to many MPs and asked them to contact their local clubs and see how things are going. And I've got some profound concerns about the way that English rugby is being run at the moment. And these clubs, mine in terms of Campbell and Redruth, we've got St Agnes, we've got Redruth Albany, Penryn, which is just outside my constituency, Falmouth as well. We've got so many really good rugby clubs they're not just about the rugby, it's about the community. It's about ensuring that kids who are from troubled backgrounds are taught about discipline and teamwork and winning and losing and control.
And being good at something.
And being good at something and being valued for something. They're so important to us, and they're just not getting the support from.
It's always been a hotbed of rugby, Cornwall.
Yeah.
I came down here on tour from, I think it was, must have been in the beginning of the 70s, I think. And I think it was Helston we played. And they were a good side, and we turned up, and we sat there, and we had the traditional big props. Hooker, hookers are a different breed, aren't they? Always standing next to each other, and the big lanky, all this and stuff. And I was fly half. I can believe it now. Look at me, well, so I was quite quick and fly half.
To stretch the imagination.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh no, I was. I'm fullback at times because two things is quite similar. And we watched them come out, and we were like, "Well, where are the backs?" There were all these great big men with ginger beards, and they were just huge. And because they were minors, and you got tough being a minor. We were all right once we got round them. We could score them, but getting round them was a different thing.
Yeah.
But and it's like Gareth Edwards said, the Welsh side, because he says you don't get a hard stacking shelves in Tesco's.
No,
because they're all minors.
Yeah.
But I played many and played far too long. But,
no,
I've got a thing I did put out on Facebook.
Yes.
Perran, some questions. I've got one here if I can read it to you. She said, just tap the screen. No, she says enter pin. I don't know what a pin is.
Yeah, you're going to need a pin. You're going to need a pin. I think it was, if I remember, it was something to do with housing and concerns locally around making sure that we've got the infrastructure.
That's right.
Particularly around sewage here.
That's exactly. It's from a guy called Vince Falco who put a thing on there. And I'm sorry, Vince, I can't read it out because I haven't got a pin.
No, but
I think you did see it earlier.
Yeah, I think it's relating to the housing targets that we've been given, the changes to planning policy across England that brought in. And I want to caveat this answer by saying that, and I've said it before, and I appreciate that it's difficult for a lot of communities, but when I knock on doorsteps, we've got huge issues with the NHS and social care. We've got massive issues with the cost of living crisis. We've got, longest ambulance waits in times of the country. None of that is the thing that comes up on the doorstep most frequently. The single thing that comes up across the constituency, whether you're in the middle of Redruth or down in, Pretty Constantine, is housing. We cannot,
same for yourself.
We cannot fix Cornish society unless we deal with the housing crisis. What's happened over several generations or several years is that we have built houses in Cornwall that are beyond the means of people in Cornwall who live here. So what you end up doing is finding that those homes are bought by people, as you can completely understand, because it's a stunningly beautiful place, who are generally older, sometimes quite often retired, who have moved to Cornwall to enjoy the lifestyle, not necessarily from people who are already here. We already have 25,000 people on the waiting list for homes in Cornwall. They're already here. They're already using our infrastructure. They're already using our sewage and shops and pubs and that sort of thing. So the idea of creating more homes in Cornwall, if they're targeted at the people who are already here, the overall impact on infrastructure should be minimal because those people are already here. They're already using the infrastructure. Where we've got to be really careful if we get this horribly wrong is if we're building homes for people who aren't here. Can't afford to move. Yeah, exactly. So we have to build truly affordable, social rented council homes as well for people that are already here. And in so doing, guess what? we reduce the tax burden on Cornish people, on people living in Cornwall. Because at the moment, we're paying vast amounts, millions every week, for emergency accommodation and temporary accommodation of people who are
800 families, I think we've got.
of people who are already here, who are using the sewage system. They're using the hospital. They're using the schools. So let's just build homes for people who are already here, look after them, make sure that they're able to contribute to society. Their kids are looked after by having a decent education, and that's the way to do it. And unless we build those homes, well, it's not going to happen, because and overall we talk about these huge increases in housing targets for Cornwall. Cornwall, 93.7% of Cornwall is not built on. To hit these housing targets, that goes from 93.7% not built on to, sorry, I've got this the wrong way around. It's 93.7. It goes up to 94.7%. So you still have 95% of Cornwall not built on. We just have to be really careful about where we decide to do this. It has to be done in conjunction with local people. They need to have a view, but we can't get to a situation where, I go to council meetings, parish council meetings, and everyone is vehemently in favour of social housing and council housing for young people from the area, and affordable housing, and they but when it comes to the crunch, you hear those dreaded 3 words: just not here. Well, I live in Redruth, right? I live in Redruth, and Redruth has got a huge amount of development happening all around it. It's time for every community to step up. And a lot are. I have to say, a lot of communities are stepping up, and they're saying, we need homes here in this place. We're happy to support them. The parish council is supporting them. The local residents are supporting this. That needs to be part of the.
What's the NDFEs? I mean, NDFEs. I know Mike Bunty, we both know very well, worked very hard. So did a lot of people, June Croston and people like that, who worked very, very hard on the NDP years. And there are things in it where it was about saying where we want the houses. But it's, again, what terrified me when I saw it, we're going to have all these houses, is that they'll send the developers down there, they'll just build 3 or 4 bedroom big houses worth £1 million. Because that's not what we want, is it? We're in
Absolutely not.
particular place, Cornwall. We've just opened another 11 flats at White's Close. I mean, White's Close, isn't it? And they were oversubscribed so much, and people were desperate to get them.
And these are people that are already here.
Oh, they all went to St. people.
But they're already using, somewhere in Cornwall, they're using infrastructure, they're using toilets, they're using GPs, they're using, their kids are at school. So it's not like we're adding to the infrastructure demand, because they're already here. If we build for people already here, if we get it wrong, we are compounding the problem.
Yeah, we are.
And this is part of the problem. I'm hopeful that we will have a change of direction on the 1st of May in Cornwall Council elections. Cornwall Council plays a critical role here in making sure that the homes that we're building are the homes for Cornish people. And I will work absolutely openly cross-party with any party that wants to try and fix the housing crisis by relieving the pressure on all of these people that the taxpayer is currently funding to put in temporary and emergency accommodation.
And what they're in, I mean, we did sell B&B, it all sounds, B&B, or a hotel or whatever. There's 800 families, and there's no cooking facilities, there's no washing facilities. There's no facilities for kids. It's dreadful.
But if you're in those environments, when I grew up, I was lucky enough that if I did a kind of crappy picture at school, Mum would put it up on the wall, and I would have a sense of pride that my little picture was on the wall, and that my friends were seeing it when they came in, and my brothers and my sister were seeing it. You can't do that if you're living in a hotel. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's a horrible existence living out home.
I've had people ring me in tears at night, both because they've got a house or both because they haven't got a house. I'm sure you get the same. And it's wicked. I think having a roof over your head is a human right. And I'll work for it all I can. And we're doing all. We've a little bit of land in the middle of St. Agnes we're looking at now, and it's right near White's Close, and we can get another 6, 7 perhaps on there.
Brilliant.
And we'll work towards that. And I know you'll help us.
Yeah, absolutely will. Yeah, I absolutely will. I just think people need to be, if we keep front of mind, if we keep at front of mind those people who are already here, who are already using our services, providing stable, secure homes for them, and them as the absolute priority, along with, and I've got to say this, nurses and social care workers and care workers. At the moment, we've got the third highest ambulance, well, second highest ambulance waiting times in the country, because we get nurses down to Cornwall. They love it. They want to stay here. Nowhere to live. So unless we build homes for the 25,000 people who are on the waiting list and the key workers, we aren't going to fix the problem.
And it's something we just met Lou, who owns the pub here, and she had the same problem. I think she's got around it in some ways, but she came to me and said, I can get a staff, but I can't get any of them to live.
Yeah.
And I had a word with her parents who've got a small farm somewhere. And I had a word with our planners and said, can we put a static on there? There's already static for the farm workers. Whoa, no. And when they looked at it, and we thought we could do it, and we said we might be able to do it. But it didn't come off because she found a flat or something. But we've got to get around these problems. You can't just say, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, we've got to be creative about it, and we've got to find solutions that make sure that, I come back to this idea of safe harbour.
Yeah.
We've got to offer safe harbour, everybody that's here, and make sure that we're looking after them, giving them the opportunity, giving our young people the opportunity to flourish, to have a great education, and to develop their careers and live in Cornwall. We've got to make sure that people who are already here, who are older, are looked after in their retirement, and they're cared for and respected. We got to, we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. We just got to make sure that we're looking after the people that are here and offering safe harbour to those that need it, and creating a community that is inclusive and supportive for everybody. And we've got this horribly wrong at the moment.
David Cllr's the vicar, the new vicar. You only met him over you, he's a nice chap. And we were talking about this, and he, a different perspective I hadn't really thought of. He said, but people mention Cornwall, and they think, because they went on the holiday, they think of lovely beaches and lovely hills, and all the loveliness of Cornwall. And they forget that there's actual poverty in you. And because they think, you can't be poor if you live in a place like that.
Yeah. I think the expression goes, looking beyond the postcard.
Yes.
And for those people that are looking beyond the postcard into towns like mine and Redruth and Camborne and others, Snossel and Bodmin, and areas where we've got Penzance now, where we've got real extreme levels of poverty and deprivation. And do you know what? If you're Cornish, if you're really Cornish, whether you're Cornish by birth, Cornish by marriage, or you're Cornish on purpose, you reach into those communities and you help those people.
Thanks very much. I've got a couple of little things, and then we'll get into watch the rugby. You're a dog person. Have you got a dog?
I don't. I can't.
You can't have a
because I'm in London Monday to Thursday. Yeah. I desperately. Jane Kirkham's got a cat, and occasionally when I get round to Jane's house, I'm not really listening to what she says because I'm just enjoying the cat. So I absolutely love cats. I love dogs. I love walking on the beach, and when I've got friends down here with dogs, and it's something I really miss. Good for the heart rate. Good for health. Fantastic companion. I really miss having it.
I was saying to Paul, who was here earlier, I've got a dog. I've got a guy's dog, my son's dog. You always end up with their pets, they when they've got. And but I did 6 weeks of this cough that everyone's got down here, and there's people in really, but I was quite poorly with it. And the doctor said, just stay in, and I got my food delivered and that sort of thing. And 6 weeks it was me and the dog, but he was my company, he was my mate.
Yeah.
I got up in the morning there, it was, otherwise I'd have gone mad, I think. The other thing, a strange thing that Mike Bunt said about keeping left when you're walking around.
Oh no!
Go on, what is it?
So I'm stupidly suspicious. Superstitious. I can't walk under a ladder. I have certain things. I have to put my socks. Oh, this is all.
Oh, go on.
I have to put my socks on before I put my trousers on in the morning.
Right.
I have to put my socks have to go on first. I don't know why that is. If I spill salt, I got to chuck it over my shoulder. That was something my gran taught me. And if I'm out canvassing, I have to stick left. And because obviously I've done quite a lot of canvassing in the past, and where that's not been a rule, this is going to sound in the 2 or 3 elections where that's not been a rule and I haven't followed that, we lost the election.
Oh, that's the reason.
Yeah. And so now, and Mike and his wife Sue, they've got video footage of me walking backwards down the streets because I will not canvass on my right. The house has to be on my left-hand side. But I did it all the way through the last election.
Release the film with it.
Well, that's I don't know about that, but yeah, no, it's something that I won't do. I just will not do. I will not walk a canvas with the house on my right. The house has to be on my left.
That's lovely. I'm pleased I got that one. That's me, basically. Is anything you want to ask me?
No, I mean, I know you're doing a fantastic job in saying this, and have been for a while. And from my perspective, it's really important that we work across party. You know, I don't look at you as a Lib Dem.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Exactly. It matters about serving the community and making sure that, and I know you do this, you're working as hard as you possibly can to make the lives better of people, mainly of people who are struggling.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. So it's an absolute pleasure to work with you, Pete, and I really do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And that's me. And I've got to thank you ever so much for coming, Perran. It's been a great chat, and lovely beer from the Driftwood Spas.
Cheers.
And shall we go watch some rugby?
Let's watch some rugby.
Thanks very much.
No worries.
Take
No
care.
worries at all. Cheers.